Close, close. Mastering Madden.
Breaking the Rules, Episode 2, Cover 3 Mable. If you don't know what Cover 3 Mable is, it is the automatic coverage check that puts your Cover 3 Sky, Cover 3 Cloud, Cover 3 Buzz, Cover 3 Match, whatever you want, into a kind of pseudo man-match coverage against certain formations. So those formations are 1x3. Okay, so whether that's, gun bunch, trips tight end, or something like this, trips halfback weak, it's going to automatically go in there. So I'm going to quickly go over the basics of it before we go into how we can break that down. Now, inadvertently, over some of my recent videos, I've shown many ways to beat Cover 3 at a 1x3. This is going to go over it in a more conceptual standpoint. So I think Smash here is going to do a good job at helping me explain how this breaks down. Now, like I was saying, as far as I'm aware, really, Cover 3 Match and Cover 3 Sky are identical coverages against 1x3, except the behavior of this weak side flat defender here, but we're not really concerned with him here. So, Cover 3, I think, is a really popular defense, obviously, really in any Madden game. I think a lot of beginner people use it, and even a lot of advanced players use it, but the advanced guys are doing all sorts of crazy stuff to try to pass job the Cover 3, which helps in certain ways and really breaks down in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to kind of go over in both senses. So Cover 3 Mable, how you can break it down just stock, and then how you can break it down with some of the common adjustments people make conceptually, saying. So really you can replicate these out of any 1x3 formation. It's not like the last video I did with the pistol bunch tight end or some of the videos before where things were really specific in terms of the route. This is going to be a lot more conceptual. So you'll see kind of towards the end of this is that Cover 3 Mable, in terms of defense, you're damned if you don't use it, and you're damned if you do use it. But I think this is going to do a good job of explaining it and trying to kind of showing you guys why things are breaking down the way they do, and then you can make the decision based off where you're getting beat. So Cover 3 Mable, you might have seen it, in the year before, and the year before that, I think it was introduced. It was a play on its own. In this case, it's built right into Cover 3, and like I said, it's an automatic coverage check once you get into 1x3. Now, you could argue, I want to make that check myself. I don't know why that's automatic. Maybe it should be automatic if I'm calling Cover 3 Match, but if I'm calling Cover 3, it really should be just spot drop, and I should expect it to be spot drop. But, it is what it is. I think going forward, I'd hope Madden goes towards more of a user decision in terms of what their coverage checks work out to be, but, it is what it is for now. So what it was before, like I was saying, it was something like this, where you have one hook defender, you have a hard flat down here and a curl flat down here, but that's not really what Mable should be. So in this case, this defender's always in the hard flat, and this defender's always running curl to flat. But in actuality, it's a defense that's pattern matching, so it's gonna work out depending on what the routes happen from the offense. Okay, so if all the three wide receivers on the strong side are running in on crossing patterns, well, this curl flat isn't gonna be drifting out here for no reason. Okay, so it's a lot smarter in this case, albeit it still has some issues. So left to right, let's work it out here. The weak side cornerback is gonna match, from what I've seen, routes from the solo side wide receiver, assuming he has a wide split here. If he's a tight end and trips tight end, or if he's got like a half split, he's not going to do it. But in this case, he'll match on routes that are 8 to 10 yards or more. Okay, so not like Cover 3 Match where he'll match slants and ins and outs and stuff like that. He'll match things like curls, posts, comeback routes, stuff like that. Working on the strong cornerback here, he doesn't really match anybody. He's just going to top the most vertical threat. So if there's a streak out of any of these three, he's going to go and run with it. If there's nothing, and the most vertical is this corner route, well, he's going to top that corner route. And he's going to bracket that with some of that underneath defender. So I actually really like his behavior here. The only time I've really seen anything poor from him is like I showed you in the pistol bunch tight end video, where he was keying a little bit on the actually, that wasn't even really his fault. He was over top of the wheel route, which was kind of coming around here, and then I showed you that a fade from the number 2 wide receiver got in behind him. But at that point, maybe that was the free safety's fault. So I actually like his behavior a lot. But you're starting to see this weird mix of man match over here and spot drop over here. That's really going to be an issue. This curl flat is going to take the first flat outside. So in this case, he would take the hitch from Moss, or if Brown was on a flat or Rice was on a quick out route or a zig route, he's going to do that, and he's going to be aggressive on that. So there's almost no reason to run a hard flat from him. Like some people might want to shade down to be a little bit more aggressive, but this guy's going to be aggressive as it is. And then over here, if you're worried about a table route or something, well, you could even just, it depends on which formation. I would try to hard flat him manually so I don't have to shade and mess up the rest of these other guys, because these hooks, although one of them is going to be a user, the other one is going to be matching to a certain route combination. So this hook curl is going to take, like I said, this curl flat is going to take the first outside route. The hook curl is going to take the second outside route. So in this case, he would match with the corner route from Brown here. So for this combination, he's going to play underneath Brown, and the cornerback, the strong side corner here, he's going to play above him, and they're going to bracket that. It's going to be a really tough throw to make. The weak hook, and I might have said this, a few times over these past few videos, but again, just reconceptualizing it just for the purposes of this video, he's going to take the first crossing route. So he's going to take this crossing route all the way across the field. Okay, so if you're a weak hook user, that's something you have to know. Like, that's one of the downsides of cover 3 is you're going to be using one of these two guys, but each one of them has some responsibility. This guy has some responsibility to cover crossers and corners going to the right, and this guy has responsibility with crossers coming to the left. Okay, so really keep that in mind. So before we get on to the strong side, one way that I can really think of, the easiest way of breaking this down is we know that the double moves have, I wouldn't say plagued this game for a few years. They've been an issue for a few years, but nobody's really been able to take advantage of them too much. But we know that a route like this, which is 8 to 10 yards or so, is going to get matched aggressively by that cornerback, and then from there it's just the double move takes over. So I'll show you this. So sometimes he beats him a little bit better than others, but you see just like that, 5 yards of separation, and that's just cover 3. That's just somebody calling cover 3, whether that's beginner or more advanced. Like me, if I'm coming out in cover 3, I'm really not doing many adjustments. I'm just kind of coming out in cover 3, and that's just an easy way to beat me, or anybody else just calling cover 3. Likewise, if they're calling cover 3 and they're shading up, it's going to be the same thing. I don't need to show it here, but it doesn't affect the deep third there at all. Now, if we were to instead, and I wish he didn't move in here because, anyway, it doesn't matter. But if it's anything else, like a 2x2, 1x1, 1x2, 2x3, that double move is not going to get past that cornerback. He doesn't play it nearly as aggressively enough. And you see he just kind of drifts to his deep third. And then, from there, it's up to the dice roll if you want to try to catch that. So yeah, really, if you got a nice double move from a solo side wide receiver, it's going to be great to go up against cover 3. Now, not all of them are created equal. See, if I smart route this so he makes this cut early, he's not going to be able to beat him because, like I said, this corner is really going to be only aggressive on cuts that are 7, 8, 10 yards or so. So yeah, that's the double move. I should say, protect the sticks is going to help against that. I said shading doesn't help. So shading only affects the flat defenders and the hook curls. Protect the sticks will cause these corners to drift immediately to the deep thirds, and they won't get beat. And the protect the sticks will also affect the flat defenders, and they'll affect the hook curls, but in a weird way. And I won't really go over that, but they start to do weird things where they'll still match, but they'll match the weird players. Protect the sticks, and then of course, if you don't want to protect the sticks, players will do other things like just put this guy in a deep half. But then a lot of things are opened up underneath. So yeah, double moves are a big issue. Let me just go ahead and reset everything here. Okay, so the next thing, like I was saying, the weak hook defender is responsible for the first crosser coming from the trip side. So in this case, it'd be the post from Rice, or even if I call something like 4 verticals, it's going to be that deep crosser from Rice. So I'll go ahead and show that. I'll show you how he crosses if I have a little bit of time in the pocket. And there you have it. Now, here's what you do. So you leave the solo side wide receiver over here on, say, something like a curl, and we know that curl is going to be matched. And then all that's left really is this linebacker to run with Rice all the way across the field. So if it is a linebacker, and if you do have a fast wide receiver, well, you can win that matchup every single time. Maybe they put in a speedy safety there or something like that, and then that might not be as easy, but that's something to look out for. Okay, so that's just if they're running cover 3 stock. Other things to look out for is that if your opponent is using that weak side hook themselves, well, they might not have the whereabouts to stay with that crosser all the way across the field. So you might want to leave him there and then have a little drag underneath, hoping that he'll be a little bit more aggressive on that. But I still feel like not many people are going to take this guy all the way across the field. And at that point, if they do, you got something underneath. Other things, this weak hook, if he's not being used, will actually, like I was saying, he takes the first crosser regardless. So in this case, the drag actually gets to him before the deep crosser, and so he matches across with the drag. He eventually comes back to the crosser, but it's just going to be too late for him. So I'll show you like that. Let me just show that again with a little bit more time. Okay. There we go. There we go. And there we go. So it'll cause him to either come down like that, and then he'll try to come back, but there's really nothing he can do there. And at that point, I also forgot to put this guy, like you would think to put him on a streak to clear out that deep third, but that just gives him a chance to make that tackle. You're better off just putting him on a curl to totally take that cornerback out of the play, and then you got your one-play touchdown over here, just like that. Other things, if they are shading, well, if they're shading, that means the hook curls are not going to play the crossers like they should. So just like that, like I said, with the shading, it doesn't affect the deep thirds, the cornerbacks, and the free safety, but it does affect everybody underneath. So this whole thing I've been preaching this whole time was, now if you have this patchiness with spot drop at certain points and man match at different points, it starts to really get muddy there. So that's just something to watch out for. Look at the behavior. I mean, really, you don't really have to care. You can just come out in 4 verticals. I think you can beat that weak side linebacker really no matter what, as long as you do a combination like this. You have a crosser and a little something underneath for him to bite down on. You have a curl on the weak side to hold that corner, assuming they're not doing something like a deep half or something like that. But even the deep half, does a pretty poor job at that crosser. A little bit of a better job, but you know, it is what it is. Actually, you know, if you're running cover 3, the safest bet is to run it as it is and just half the weak side cornerback. So it's always going to be better. You don't need him to be so aggressive on a curl from the solo side wide receiver, because the curl flat is going to drift underneath him. You don't need him to be aggressive on a comeback or anything like that, or you know, match a post route coming across. You really just need him to be solid there so he doesn't get beat by double moves and beat by crossers. So yeah, that's that. Or another thing you can do, and I'm going to have to get out of this play real quick. If you come into a play like Y trips here, slot 2 buck, cover 3 sky, where the crosser is coming from number 2 or number 3, you don't have to worry about anything, because in this case nobody's accounted for him. So I would prefer my cover 3 Mable for the slot here to run vertically with number 2 to match him vertically, so you can avoid things like this, or at the very least just don't match this guy. Just let him bail out into his deep third, because really, unless you have a user here, nobody is accounting for this post route right here. And then you got, you know, easy touchdown there as well. So, you know, those are some of the things, you know, like cover 3 has always had a few one-play touchdowns that we've all known about, but this is really breaking it down why it's happening. This Mable has a lot of big windows for big plays. So that's verticals. For verticals where you have a crosser for number 3, you can really get past that solo side corner. Really, he's the weak spot. Like I was saying, yeah, just put him in a half. I don't think it's totally necessary to be, you know, shading and protecting the sticks. I think that's really the only one adjustment that you need to be really, really safe, because other things with Mable are actually going to help you out. So like in this case where you have a sail concept, like I was saying before, that curl flat is going to be aggressive underneath, and that strong side hook is going to help you out. So he's going to match. Now the problem is, like I just showed there, is that he's a linebacker against a wide receiver. Not only that, if it's a situation like this where the corner route is coming from the number 2 rather than number 3, well, this hook has to come all the way from over here, or, you know, over here if people are doing their crazy baseline stuff. He's got to go from all the way over here to all the way over here against the speedy wide receiver, which is really he's never really going to win. So again, what I was thinking would be better is for the slot, for the nickel there to match vertical for number 2, and then the number 3 would come in to fill on the flat on number 3. So I think you're much better off there, where you have, you know, an actual defensive back against that deeper route, and you have your hooks underneath. But you know, maybe that's something for going forward. But you know, if you have somebody athletic in at this position here, I think you're a lot better off. And I showed that really with my gun bunch D. If you can actually get a cornerback there on that hook curl, he's going to lock that corner on that sail really, really well. And I have a video coming out, probably my next video or the one after that, has some really nice, solid and sound foundational adjustments to cover 3. So keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, you know, like, and actually let me move the strength to the field here, because although, you know, you have a mismatch here and you can squeeze that ball in if it is a linebacker, I mean, you're going to get totally toasted by this anyway. So say if you start shading and you get that strong hook out of the equation, you start shading, say something like a cloud flat here, well, that corner route's still going to be open, even more so. You know, you can cloud flat there, you can hard flat, you can keep the curl flat in, you can do protect the sticks, and this is still going to get open, just like that. So really, I think fundamentally, this is a route concept that is detrimental to cover 3, but I think cover 3 Mable, as it's programmed in this game, gives you the best shot, really the only shot at defending this, where this hook curl can now get involved. But we don't want this guy to be Ray Lewis. We want this guy, at the very least, to be somebody like Ryan Shazier or, I don't know who's fast in Ultimate Team right now, but you can sign a bit in a safety, or if we can possibly get a cornerback at one of these hooks, which there are ways of getting into that. And like I said, you'd want to stay tuned for that. But yeah, really, I think that's really kind of all I want to go over is that cover 3 Mable, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because it helps out on situations like this, like Sale, though it is still exploitable. The weak corner has some issues with the double moves and has some issues with being a little bit too aggressive on the solo side wide receiver, leaving crossers. Leaving the crosser either, on a mismatch, a linebacker trying to cover number 3 all the way across the field, or situations where number 2, like I showed you in slot 2 Buck, doesn't get accounted for at all. Or, your opponent's doing crazy stuff anyway, like shading, just calling cover 3, going hard flat down. Brings you a lot of issues. So I think really if you're running cover 3, this video is a little bit more on both sides, not just exploiting. I think you're best off leaving it as it is, but just putting your weak side corner on a half, or I think even a quarter would do you wonders. I mean, there's not much you can do with this guy. It is what it is. This strong side corner does a really nice job, except in those really, really specific cases like I showed in the pistol trips tight end, or pistol bunch tight end, sorry. Curl flat is nice and aggressive underneath. And this hook curl gets involved too. So really, I mean, you're going to have to pick one of these guys, but it's something you're going to have to know is that you're going to have to essentially watch out for crosshairs going this way. Not so much to the right, though if you are the strong hook here, you are going to have to defend this corner route yourself. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Mable itself can also be exploited here. Like we can do something like a smoke screen here, and then out here and a fade here, and this out, that linebacker just has a whole world of trouble against it, and you can really run that all day long. But yeah, you're kind of a little bit more fundamental on this side. On those crossers, you're really going to be outmatched a lot of times. Just like that. So have that weak side corner. Otherwise, if you're on offense, use those double moves, use those crossers to your advantage, and start breaking down that Mable. Hopefully we can fix this coverage going forward, but it is what it is for now. Okay, we'll see you guys in the next one.